Hey everybody, it's nice to see you again. We are back again with 3 new guest speakers for this session of IDEA Networking, and IDEA stands for Instructional Designers and Educators Alliance. And I've been doing this for almost, a year and a half now. I didn't know I would be doing this for a year and a half, but it has been super fun. No, nope. Gotta go. No, not right now. Turn around.
Oh, I thought you were changing your mind that it wasn't super fun.
Sometimes you can't, you gotta do it live. Right. Okay. So notes. So we have 3 speakers tonight. Come on, go somewhere else, or I'll just try to ignore him. We have 3 speakers tonight. We have Megan Kohler, Princess Small, and Lori Milton. Megan, I'm going to have you go last since you're going to be talking about the book that we're working on together. And Princess, do you want to go first? And as she's talking, please write down your questions. And if you want to go into, keep in mind of which person you want to go into a breakout room with when we get to that part. And Princess, I'm going to spotlight you.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
All yours.
Yeah. I'm so honored to be here. I remember back near the beginning when Sharon was starting this. And so I'm so happy to finally contribute after being, in the audience. But I am from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I really got my start in ID as a teacher. I've been teaching EFL, ESL for over 12 years, maybe 13 at this point. And I, around 2015 or so, I was thinking time to get out. And I was thinking I'd go into web development. I'd built web pages before, and I was somewhat comfortable with that. And so I started studying web development. But then a friend of mine, at the time I was living and working in Saudi Arabia, and a friend was working at Aramco, which is the largest oil company in the world. And there was an opening for an ID, and I had never heard of that, but she was like, "Hey, Princess, look at this." And I saw it and I was like, wow, this is amazing. It's, technology, but also learning and training. And I think I could do this. Obviously, I did not get that job, but that started me off on the path of, finding out more about it. Eventually, I signed up for Oregon State University's graduate certification in e-learning and design, and I started that in 2019. And it took about a year. It didn't have to, but I took a year. And then, of course, with COVID, that made everything stop. And, I was still working in Saudi Arabia as an ESL teacher, but that really forced me to pursue this more seriously harder because I did lose my job there. And so I was actually stuck there. And so I had lots of time to fill out applications for instructional design positions. I kept just, practicing, doing whatever I could to learn more about it. So my first jobs in instructional design were volunteer work. I volunteered with Design by Humanity, which was started after George Floyd's murder. And it's a collaboration where people were designing trainings on, not critical race theory, but just tolerance and equity, things like that. So that was my first time actually working on a team in instructional design. We used action mapping and things like that. So I learned a lot with that volunteer experience. Then I got my first paid position doing microlearning with an app called EdApp. So I was making training for CNAs, marine health and safety training, business training. I've done United Nations work with them, just a whole bunch of different industries. So then during all of this, I was still teaching, doing English rating exams, rental property, like just to keep my head above water, still in Saudi Arabia. had many other interviews because I was hoping to get a W-2 job. But finally, I opened an LLC, started a company for instructional design. And so I've been freelancing since then. I have two major contracts. I had a short stint with Microsoft. I have a nonprofit gig still going. And I guess, yeah, just overall, I'm still freelancing. I'm not sure if I want to stay in it, but it definitely pays the bills, and it's nice having my own hours, but it's, give and take. And so definitely if we do the breakout session, if you want to know what it's like freelancing, I can certainly let you in on that. But I guess lessons learned would just to bring your full self to the job. Because a lot of times, you hear about imposter syndrome and all that, but really people appreciate it when you're yourself and you bring your full self and you don't hold back and just, say, here I am, and this is what I can do. And even if I don't know right now, I'm going to find out. And also just apply for all the jobs. Do not self-disqualify. Let somebody else do that. And I found that that's been pretty successful for me. So that's it.
I love that. Your statement about having a willingness to learn. I've said before in previous sessions with people that just saying that in your interview, and giving examples of things that you've learned, specifically maybe even like software, like, oh, I didn't know how to do this, but I put in the time to learn it. Like showing people that you're interviewing with that you have a willingness to learn goes a long way, because there's a lot of people that don't want to learn.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and even then, just keep going, just keep learning. And actually, I was just saying that I might be doing some recruiting here because I didn't learn. Not just kidding, but yeah, like I try to keep on top of things. Like, actually, it's been kind of difficult since I've been out of the unemployment game for a while. So you have to just intentionally learn. Like, you can't just let up on that.
That's a good point.
All right. I'm going to hand it over new to Lori.
Hi, everybody.
There you
Thanks
go.
for joining us tonight. How many of you are doing what you're doing right now, what you thought you'd be doing when you were a child? Show of hands, or you can use your emojis or put in the chat box. If you had asked me when I was a child what I would be, I would have been a missionary living in a hut in Argentina, speaking Spanish and helping sick children. I was very, very book smart. School was a breeze to me. Never in a gajillion years did I ever think that I would go into education. But as you make a plan, and someone bigger than me sees the bigger plan for me for my life. And I firmly believe that there's no such thing as coincidence, and we are where we're meant to be. I think my first idea was to be a typist. That's fun. I know, right? So for me, like I said, I thought I was going the medical route, and I definitely knew that I needed a helping career, but determined that it was not going to be in medicine when clinicals and things started, and I passed out and can still smell the smelling salts. So my advisor said then, clearly you need a helping career, but it's not going to be this. And so at the time, the state of Florida was offering, there was a hiring freeze for 3 years, and the state of Florida was offering not only to pay my room, board, and tuition, but also I received a stipend if I would go into special education. So having said that, never in a million years did I think that I would be in education at all. And I wound up going into several different avenues of education, and spent my entire career of 28 years to teach. And I can say that I taught every grade from kindergarten through 12th grade as an ESE teacher. I would, blend in and work in with the general educators. So I was able to step my toes in each of those little waters, and I found that I loved high school. So I then changed my certification so that I was certified to teach high school algebra, and that's what I absolutely loved. I spent a big chunk of years helping and supervising ESE programs at a variety of different schools here in Southwest Florida, but I felt just pulled back to be with the kids. Well, again, we plan, and a bigger power laughs, because then there we come to the fated, March 13th, how, we say that the 13th is unlucky, but for me, it was a day that changed my life. March 13th, 2018, it was the last day of spring break before we were supposed to return, and we never returned. So what happened was I was on the beach with my son that day, and I got a phone call from the company that I am currently employed with and working with. And they reached out to me. A friend of mine that I used to teach with contacted me and just said, listen, like, you are so extremely creative. I'm right brain, left brain, I'm all brain. Like, my brain never shuts down. Have you ever thought of being an instructional designer? And I didn't even know it was a thing, like, no clue. I have my master's in curriculum instruction and had never even thought, heard of, dreamed, or even, breathed about instructional design. And so she sent me a bunch of videos and a bunch of articles, and I literally could not sleep. I was just reading and just watching videos and just digesting all this information and thinking that there could possibly be something that was even better than what I was already doing. I love teaching. I mean, my entire heart and soul was in it. I didn't think that that's where I was going to land, but it's where I landed. So over the course of several months, while we went remote that last quarter, and during that last quarter, the company that I work for, Mania Learning Global Solutions, just worked with me, and just, we had a series of conversations back and forth. And the last week of school, I wound up on the very last day just resigning. I just felt in my heart that it was time to fly, and I took the leap. My bosses, my colleagues have been nothing but just amazing and super supportive. Encouraged me to take an ATD course and to get my certification in instructional design. And I highly encourage you to do, whether it's through ATD or not. I don't mean to name drop, but definitely it was very helpful for me to be able to learn and understand the language, because just like in education, we've got our jargon, we've got our alphabet soup. And it's the same thing when you move over into instructional design. So whether there's several things out there, again, I'm going to try to not drop names, but there's a lot of things that are available to you. And I'd be happy to share that if, when we get into breakout rooms, if you're interested in learning about some of the things that I did and how I got to where I am right now. But again, it's just one of those things that you have to trust your gut and work really hard, and lean on people who are willing to support you, because I was not sure that I wanted to walk away from 28 years of the only thing I've ever known. I was a teacher mentor. I was on every board and committee. I had clubs. Just totally 150% ingrained in what I did. And I wrote the letter and walked away and watched the jaws drop, but haven't looked back. It's been a phenomenal, incredible ride, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. So it's possible. It's very possible, and it's very rewarding and very enjoyable. So thanks for letting me tell my story.
Yeah. I want to piggyback on what you were saying, that about it being possible. I mean, it really is. Princess said earlier, she came into some of our first sessions and wasn't really sure, what is this we're talking about? And is this something I could really do? And she's not the only one who's come back in the last year and a half and has said, oh my God, this was just the encouragement that I needed to try. And, you don't know until you try.
Well, and to piggyback on what you said before, also don't close doors for yourself. I was saying to myself, how am I qualified to do this? I don't have this type of a background. And I had no idea about how transferable the skills are that we the skills that we have as educators. When I'm on my planning period and I'm developing those slides and I'm developing what I'm going to teach my students and how I'm going to reach them and how I'm going to make it interactive, that's instructional design. We just don't have, again, the language. We're not used to the language that's used in corporate ID or in, just in post 12th grade K-12 education or corporate education. So again, don't shut those doors, and let people share things with you and show you and guide you to get you to where you want to be. And the other thing I would say also is there's a huge world of L&D. It's not just necessarily instructional design. There are so many other avenues that you could also pursue.
And just to give credit to where it's due, that was Princess that said, don't disqualify yourself.
Yes. Yep, that's true.
Give it to her.
Don't do it.
All right, Megan, are you ready?
Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Kohler, and I'm currently a learning designer at Penn State University. And, my story is actually very much like Lori and Princess's stories. I mean, I didn't start out in this field either. In fact, I actually started out as an actor. I was working professionally, traveling all up and down the Eastern Coast, performing in K through 12 schools and in some of the oldest theater houses in the United States, which was actually really cool. But I mean, I think that just to further expand upon Lori's thread about there always is someone watching over you, I firmly believe that there's someone watching over me. And I know that that's true of all of us. And I can absolutely see how my life was shifted in an entirely new direction because of, the man upstairs looking out for all of us. And for me, that came in when I was working with this theater company and we were offering these workshops in robotics. And there was a young man conducting these workshops, and he was just a teenager. He was 14 years old, very young. And so it was my responsibility to be there sort of overseeing everything and helping to support him, provide him with whatever he needed in order to be able to conduct these workshops. Because even though he was that young, he was this incredible genius, this savant in terms of robotics. So we were very lucky to have him. But interestingly enough, his father was actually the department chair for the Instructional Technology program at Bloomsburg University. And his father would bring him to these workshops so that he could conduct them for us. And his father would sometimes stick around and, see how things were going. And his father came up to me after one of the sessions and said, Megan, have you ever thought about instructional design? You have a lot of the skills that would transition into this field really well. I was like, oh, what? What is that? I have no idea what you're even talking about. I'm like, does that mean training and stuff? And he is like, well, that's a part of it. He said, why don't you come to my office and we'll sit down and we'll talk about it. And so I did. And before I even left his office that day, he had me signed up for the program. He had my name in for some work study opportunities that would actually give me the funding that I needed to be able to participate in the program. Because as you can imagine, a young woman who has been serving in the role of an actor has probably not had a lot of additional funds. And I didn't. I think at that point in time, I was making about $200 a week. So not a lot, and definitely not something that I would ever be able to support myself on long term. So along comes this really amazing opportunity. And the people within my program, I went to Bloomsburg University for my instructional technology program, and the people there were so wonderful. They were so nurturing and so empowering, and just helped me recognize my talents and my skills and my abilities that I brought to the table, and that I could leverage from my skills as an actor, that I could take those qualities and bring them into instructional design. And so that was very exciting for me, because when they initially approached me with this, I felt very apprehensive to leave something that I really loved. I had been working professionally doing various types of acting gigs since the age of 12. And here I was 25, having done this career for so long. And it was something that I just believed my entire life that I was going to be an actor. And they just helped me see that those creative elements could still be a relevant part of what I was doing moving forward. And so as I participated in that program, I was very fortunate enough to make it all the way through. And then at the end, they have what they call a corporate advisory council. And what that is at the end of the year, when you are graduating from the program, they bring a lot of different professionals who have already graduated as well. And they essentially serve as this panel, right? And you give this presentation to them. And at the end of that, there's sort of a debrief. They tell you what they liked about your presentation and how you could improve, so that you're starting out with a really fantastic set of skills and feedback in your sort of designer toolkit as you go to launch into the professional field. And it was at that event that I end up being seated next to a man who had just recently become a director at Penn State University, a director of his own online learning unit. So there I am sitting right next to this person. And he's like, Megan, so tell me about yourself. What's your background? What did you do before you started this program? And I said, well, I used to be a professional actor. And he's like, you're kidding. And I said, no, why? And he said, I just received, or I just acquired the position of the director of the e-learning institute for the College of Arts and Architecture. He said, I need somebody on my team who understands how artists and actors think. He said, I would love if you would come and interview for this job. And so, of course, I said yes. And next thing I knew, I was hired for the position and I was moving to Penn State. And it has been a wild ride. I mean, I cannot even, I still sort of sit here and just think like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe the amazing opportunities that have been brought my way because of all of these odd events that happened along the way, but they were just such these perfect connections. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Sharon. But I mean, through working at Penn State and, again, just from the man above watching over us, I've had the opportunity to work on a project with Apple. I helped develop the first iTunes U course that was ever offered through Penn State University. I also had the opportunity to work on a massive open online course, which if you're not familiar with that term, it's also referred to as a MOOC. And our MOOC ended up being highlighted in Wired magazine. In addition, I've had the opportunity to serve as in a number of roles with the Online Learning Consortium, which if you've never heard of them, I absolutely encourage you to go out and check them out. They are a phenomenal group that really focuses on digital and blended learning for a number of different venues, not just higher education. But yeah, I mean, I'm just in complete awe of all the amazing opportunities that this career has brought me. And I think back in terms of my hesitancy to leave the world of theater. And I just am so glad that I decided to take the leap and the opportunity that was presented to me. And so just to sort of wrap up my journey here, I just have to give a shout out to Sharon and Chris and so many of the other amazing individuals, Robin DeFelice, Jill Stefaniak, Carl Moore, Julaine Fowlin, and so many of the other amazing people that I am currently collaborating with for my first book, focused on the multidisciplinary nature of instructional design. And I think that that's one of the reasons why Sharon actually invited me to come and speak with you all tonight, because it is the perfect book for this group. This book is a collection of stories and skills that can be taken from prior careers into the field of instructional design. It's exactly what you all are talking about here. And we're talking about, there are stories from individuals who have served in the military, individuals who come from the field of language learning. It's going to be a really fantastic book. And I have the link, which I can put in the chat window, but I would definitely encourage you all to check it out and see if it's something that resonates with you. And there is a sign-up form that if you are interested in signing up for sort of it's not an official pre-order, but it's an email list so that when the book does become available, we'll send you an email and we'll let you know how you can go about purchasing it. And to answer Lauren's question, it will be released. We're thinking it will be released in early 23.
Yeah, it's been really fun contributing. I'm working with Erica Fleming. If anybody knows her, she also works at Penn State, and she and I have been co-authoring a chapter about how the skills and abilities and attitudes for teaching composition and ESL transfer into the field of instructional design. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Before we get too far into the whole group Q&A, I want to remind you tell you that the next time that we're going to meet is going to be Tuesday, April 5th from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern. And I will put the registration link in the chat. So if you want to go ahead and get that done, you can register today. I'm also going to put the feedback form for today if you want to share with me your feedback on the session. And I'll go ahead and open up questions. You can feel free to unmute yourself and let us know what your question is. And or if you want, you can put it in the chat and I'll try to monitor that. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So the nonprofit that I'm working with in Cincinnati, we have some new courses that we're working on, and we are in need of 1, maybe 2 storyline developers. So if you have some storyline experience and some samples, by all means, you can contact me on LinkedIn. I just sent my my page, whatever, link there. So yeah, hit me up if you or somebody you know is willing to do some storyline work for us. It'll be part-time, no more than, well, actually, we're kind of hitting the wire, so it might be 20 to 30 hours.
Trisha, it's nice to see you.
Actually, I do have a question, and
I'm ready.
I am new to the discussion, so thanks, Sharon, for putting this together. But so I am in a program, Instructional Design, at the University of Virginia, and a lot of it focuses on, I feel like, K through 12, which is fine, which is fine. But I would like to know how, because I'm more interested in adult learning, and I know. So I guess ultimately, where can one find more information about adult learning or adult learners in general? And because in my program, we talk about standards and how you create the essential questions, and much to, like, I guess, K through 12 education. But I wonder how all of this translates now to adult learners. And
I just shared my the website for where I work, and we have a blog. We have a whole bunch of information that you'll find on the website there that may be of interest to you, or feel free to reach out to me for LinkedIn. We do a weekly podcast series, and we've spent a ton of time on this, so I'd be happy to share resources with you, Trisha.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
For people who are watching this later, the website is Minaya Learning, MINAYA learning.com.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I'm hoping maybe if I'm not in this boat by myself here, if we can talk about general transferable skills between teaching to ID. If I'm the only one that's currently still a teacher and looking to get out of teaching.
I'm a teacher, you're not alone.
Okay.
No, you're not.
Me too.
Transition. But I'm hoping maybe we just go through like a very general list of transferable skills. I'm currently a high school art teacher, so bonus brownie points here if you can think of any like creative skills that could be used over in ID as well.
I can talk a little bit about that. I would say I would lean into your experience with collaboration. You know, you're an art teacher, so you have to know kind of what the different grade levels are doing and how what you're doing intersects with what other people are doing. Talk about your ability to work on cross-functional teams.
Okay.
Where you, it's just a corporate way of talking about working with people who all have different functions on a team. Talk about your flexibility to kind of go with the flow, your willingness to learn. If there's specific tech that you've learned for your job, you can talk about that. Problem solving, creative problem solving. Maybe you have a specific situation of how you met the needs of one one of your students that maybe they had a very specific particular problem and you troubleshooted that. Anyone else want to jump in for that?
Yeah,
I am in.
Megan?
Go ahead.
Or sorry, Megan, I'm gonna follow you first, Megan.
okay. I think that you are uniquely situated to talk about the student experience. One of the things that is such a hot topic right now is the student experience, learning experience design within the field. I mean, there's actually a lot of instructional design positions that are no longer being posted as instructional design, but instead they are being posted as learning experience designers. So you have years of experience of working directly with students. You have that knowledge of how they are best going to consume information in ways that instructional design, typical people who come to the field of instructional design, they won't have that. And that will definitely be something that you can use in your favor. And I have to give a shout out because some of the best instructional designers that I know are individuals who came from a teaching background. And I attribute a lot of that to the fact of having that ability to work one-on-one with the students. I think it's an incredibly valuable skill. And so don't sell yourself short on that. You're bringing a lot to the table with that.
And who else wanted to, Lori, was it you that
Yeah.
wanted to?
Yeah, I was going to share, I'm in the process right now of developing a blog and our next podcast, but it's exactly on teaching to ID. But one of the things that I want to share is, as teachers, we're detail oriented, we're builders of solutions, we have a growth mindset, we're leaders, we're people growers. There's just, you just think about all those things that you do in your classroom. And it's really just learning to reframe your skills. It's learning to just take all of those pluses that you have and write them in such a way that people who aren't teachers know exactly what it means. I don't know if anybody else has had an experience like this where you've applied for your job and they say, well, you're a teacher. What makes you think you're qualified? And you just want to lose your mind because they don't understand that the word teacher means 8,000 million different things. So it's learning to articulate what does it mean to be a teacher? I am a case manager, or I am a project manager for, if you're an elementary teacher, up to 30 students, or if you're a high school teacher, I'm a project manager for up to 150 students, clients. I mean, it's the same thing. It's very transferable to what we do in ID. So it's not published yet. It's coming soon. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, it'll be out there, but reach out. I'd be happy to share with you what's there so far.
How can we reframe saying really good at multitasking or switching between multiple tasks? Because every teacher knows that you're doing 1,000 things at once. I just don't know how to put that in a nice way.
Definitely. Yep. Use the word fluid. You are fluid. Multitasking sometimes gets a bad rap. People think that you got 50, they picture that Dr. Seuss with 50 plates in the air. You're very fluid. We have fluid skills where I can, manage multiple tasks at the same time. But fluid or nimble. I've heard the word nimble used a lot as well. We're a nimble team. Everybody does a little bit of everything, kind of a thing.
I'm also putting into the chat some resources that I got from Sarah Stevick. She gave me the instructional design toolbox. So feel free to take a look at that. And also I have 100 keywords for instructional design resumes. Like for those of you who are working on figuring out how to talk about your skills in a resume.
Ooh, actually, I have, I don't know if it's still a good tip, but back when I was looking for jobs actively, there's a website that helps you to correlate your CV resume with the job description in terms of keywords. And let me just check 1 second, see if it's still up. Yep, okay, it is. And hopefully it's still pretty free. I'll put it in the chat right here.
Excellent.
But yeah, it's an awesome tool to help you hit all them keywords.
And Lori mentions in the chat, Sarah Stevick's group is called Teaching a Path to L&D, and you can search for that on LinkedIn. and join that group. It's a very active group. I think like every day someone's saying,
Mhm.
I can't keep up with it, but it's a really, it's a good place to find encouragement if that's what you really need to get out there and try. Any last questions before we wrap up tonight?
I have a quick one. On my LinkedIn profile and resume, initially my feeling was to, instead of, title myself as an educator and sell myself as an educator, to call myself an instructional designer, a curriculum specialist, all of these things that we know as teachers we do and we're experienced at. But I got some feedback on that, and I was told that that probably isn't a good idea because you're just an educator, you're just a teacher, and you don't want to deceive somebody. So I thought, okay, should I put I'm an educator transitioning to ID? I just didn't know, and so I wanted to get everybody else's input on that. Is that something that, in the experience that you guys have had, is that something that I should just, I don't know. How do you guys feel about
Are
it?
you a lifelong learner?
Absolutely.
So there you go. I mean, and anybody that uses the word just before teacher, the word teacher has missed the boat, has missed the point.
Mhm.
But focus on your strengths, focus on your talents. What
Okay.
do you do as a teacher?
Mhm.
You cultivate young minds. You are the link, to families. Like sometimes it's just a matter of wordsmithing is what I think a lot of it boils down to. It's taking, playing to your strengths and wordsmithing it so that I don't want to say uneducated, but the unteachered person knows exactly what that means.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
just put it on there. just put it on there. Just put it on it. I'm an instructional designer. Don't let people be confused. Don't let them be confused. You're an instructional designer. You just ain't gotten paid for it yet. So, it's fine. Just put it on there.
Look at other people's too. Look at other people's LinkedIn profiles. That's what I did. Was I looked and I big borrowed and stole and made it my own. Like took their words and made it mine. Like I said, for those of you in the breakout room, the best things that I've ever gotten or done have been learned from other people. The best lessons I've seen and carried into my classroom were things that I saw someone else doing, and give them credit, of course. I mean, I wouldn't take it verbatim, but take it, tweak it, and make it yours.
I would keep the official title that you have currently. So if you are a teacher, educator, whatever that term is, because if someone does do a check, if they call up the organization we're currently working and said, hi, so we're looking for the instructional designer. And they're just like, wait a second, she's not an instructional designer. Like that's going to be setting you off on the wrong foot with those people. So I would keep your official title, your official working title, but then use all of the appropriate jargon for the field, like Lori and Princess were just saying, work that into what it is, like the tasks that you've done. I've developed curriculum for these.
Right, exactly.
Work those elements of what instructional design is, put that in the language that specifies what it is that you've done, because that's really what they're going to be looking at. I mean, yeah, some people will look at your titles, but people who are really interested in what you bring to the table, they're going to be focusing on what it is that you've actually done in that role. So that would be my recommendation.
I agree.
Okay. I like that. Thank you.
And don't forget, like there was a time for all of us when we were an instructional designer being paid to do it for like the first couple weeks. We're like, I don't know, is that what I'm doing? Because I've been a teacher my whole life. So it's fine.
Exactly. Those first few days of semester are just pure like, wait, what are we doing?
So true. All right, we are past our time, so I'm gonna wrap up here and thank our guest speakers, Princess and Lori and Megan. Thank you so much for sharing your time and expertise with all of us. And I really hope to see a lot of you back here in April. And have a great evening, and I will share out the recording with you hopefully in the next couple days. Have
Thank
a
you
good
so much
one.
for hosting this.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Bye all. Have a great one.